Welcome to the Game Recap channel. Today we will review a short summary of the game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. The game begins with memories of exploring the jungle. Making our way deeper inside, we find an ancient temple. Exploring it and bypassing traps, we reach the treasure. When Indy takes the treasure, the temple begins to crumble and we are forced to flee. During the escape, Indiana's assistant steals the treasure and abandons him. Having escaped and recovered the treasure, Indy leaves the temple. After this, he wakes up and hears the sounds of a break-in. Following the destruction, Indiana reaches the exhibition hall, where he finds a massive man who attacks him without explanation and knocks him unconscious. Regaining consciousness, Indiana learns that a cat mummy has been stolen. Continuing the search, we find a pendant worn by the man who attacked Indy. After checking the find in his office, Indy realizes that the pendant bears the symbol of the secret Vatican archives. To figure out why the cat mummy was stolen, Indy heads to the Vatican. Arriving at the Vatican, we are met by Indiana's old friend Antonio. Eavesdropping on Father Ventura's conversation, we learn that the Vatican is dangerous. Because of him, Indy wakes up in Antonio's office the next morning. After considering the clues, Antonio says he saw a similar symbol in the library. Dressed as a priest, Indy searches the library and finds a secret passage that opens with the help of the pendant. Exploring the cave, we find an old alchemy lab with a clue. To move further, Indiana needs a camera. While searching for it, Indy meets Ernesto, who sells us a camera. Having obtained the camera, Indy sets off to photograph monuments on Vatican grounds. After taking photos of 4 monuments, Indy returns to Antonio, and they begin to decipher the drawings together. From them, they learn that they need blood, and Antonio gives Indiana a bottle of wine. Next, Indy heads to an abandoned temple, where he finds a secret passage using the wine. Exploring the passage and the caves within, he comes across ancient religious drawings. After solving the puzzle, Indy enters a giant's tomb. In the attempt to open his sarcophagus, the ceiling begins to collapse, and the debris breaks the sarcophagus. Indy pulls an ancient scroll from the fragments of the sarcophagus, but immediately after, a truck crashes into the tomb. Escaping from it, Indy searches for a new way to leave the tomb, as the path he arrived by is blocked. Finding another exit from the cave, Indy spots a mysterious nun and decides to track her. Upon catching up, Indy begins a conversation during which he witnesses the arrival of the German archaeologist Voss at the Vatican. After meeting Gina, we learn she is searching for her sister Laura, who disappeared 6 months ago. To gather more information, Indy teams up with Gina. Following this, Indy visits Antonio and delivers the artifact found in the giant's tomb. Meeting with Gina, we set out to find her informant Julia, who possessed information about us. Reaching the room where Julia is being held, Indy rescues her. From Julia, we learn the Vatican has been monitoring Indiana and his collection. Afterward, Indy meets Gina once more. By solving a puzzle, we gain entry to a monastery belonging to a secret Vatican organization. Using the pendant, Indy opens a hidden door, and we enter the Vatican treasury. There, Indy finds his cat mummy statue, but the giant who stole it appears, and Indy engages him in combat. Once the giant loses consciousness, our heroes hide him. At that moment, the archaeologist Voss enters the treasury accompanied by German soldiers and Father Ventura. Voss convinces Father Ventura to cooperate, and he reluctantly agrees. Then, Voss smashes the cat mummy statues, discovering components inside for locating a treasure known as the Great Circle. Upon leaving the treasury, Gina decides to follow Voss onto his airship. Unable to pass up the chance to learn more about the Great Circle, Indy also sneaks on board, where he encounters Gina. Once on board, Indy explains the nature of the Great Circle to Gina, but she dismisses it, stating her only interest is finding her sister. Leaving the airship, we arrive in Giza, where we observe Voss arguing with a German officer. Later, we meet Naval, who provides a clue that the fragments needed to find the Great Circle are hidden within other treasures, similar to the cat mummy. To advance and secure help from Naval, we must assist her in finding treasures within the region. During this time, Gina tunes into Voss's radio frequency, and from his conversation, we obtain a lead regarding the Great Circle. Next, after purchasing a lighter, Indy meets Gina, and they explore caves to find the items on Naval's list. Having solved the riddles and secured several treasures, our heroes exit the cave. Indy then meets Omar, who gives him a hint about the location of the next treasure. After infiltrating a hidden room, Indy finds another treasure from Naval's list. Having collected all the treasures, Indy delivers them to Naval, who then reveals how to break into Voss's temporary residence. Following Naval's lead, we enter a tomb filled with mummies, passing through it to reach Voss's residence. After infiltrating Voss's office, we find Laura's notebook, leading us to conclude that Voss is involved with Gina's sister. To learn more, we sneak into the attic and eavesdrop on a conversation between Voss and the German officer. During their talk, we discover that they need one of the giants to find the Great Circle, but the officer decided to kill him since he could not extract any information. Voss mocks the officer, who screams and points a gun at Voss. At that moment, the ceiling collapses and our heroes fall into the room. Meeting face to face, Indy and Voss speak like old friends. To gather more details, Indy examines the body of the dead giant. Reflecting on his findings, Indiana concludes that Gina's sister, Laura, was restoring the first language in the world, given by God, called Adamic. From the conversation between Gina and Voss, we learn that Laura is working for Voss, but we do not have time to find out more because a fight breaks out between the officer, Indy, Gina, and Voss. In the end, our heroes emerge victorious, but are forced to flee due to a triggered alarm. Reaching the evacuation point, we meet Naval, who blows up a tunnel, allowing us to escape the pursuit. After regaining consciousness, Indy joins Naval. Together, we make our way out of the rubble and reach a rock carving, from which we learn the location of the idol of Ra. Additionally, Indiana realizes that the giants are protectors of the Order of the Nephilim, and the tattoos on them are the key to understanding the Adamic language. After exiting the pyramid, Indy heads to the rear entrance of the Sphinx. Once inside, he encounters a puzzle involving the first language in the world. To proceed, Indy decodes the ancient inscriptions using Laura's notebook and the words of the giant. After solving the puzzle, he falls into a room where a giant protector attacks him. After defeating the giant, Indy takes his pendant. Using it, he opens a secret passage, at the end of which he finds the statue of the idol of Ra. Breaking the statue, Indy retrieves a fragment for finding the Great Circle, but is immediately forced to flee from a sand avalanche. Emerging from the pyramid, he becomes stuck in the sand, with only his head remaining on the surface. At that moment, Voss arrives and takes the discovered fragment. Mocking him, he discusses the location of the next fragment before leaving Indiana to die in the desert. After surviving a scorpion attack, he is rescued by Gina and Naval. Coming to his senses, Indy and Gina leave the desert. With Naval's help, we reach the place where the next fragment is hidden. During this time, Indy continues to study Adamic. Reaching the Himalayas, we find a massive ship among the mountains. Making our way inside, Gina finds the frozen body of her sister. Shocked, she cannot believe what she sees. Meanwhile, Indiana finds Laura's notebook. From it, the heroes learn that Laura really was working with the Nazis, but Gina refuses to believe it. In Laura's notes, Indy finds a clue about the fragments of the Great Circle. Due to the arrival of the Nazis, the heroes have no time to say goodbye to Laura and are forced to fight back. Reaching the officer's office, we find a captain who holds a fragment. In an attempt to get it, Indy gets into a fight with a German soldier. But suddenly Hans, Voss's right hand, appears and takes him prisoner. During the interrogation, Gina appears with the found fragment and after tricking Hans, slips him a grenade. Due to the explosion, the ship begins to fall from above. In the chaos, only Indy, Gina, and Hans survive. At the last moment, Indy decodes the necessary word in Adamic and, using the fragment, teleports all three of them to another location. Upon regaining consciousness, Hans attempts to kill Indiana, but perishes from glass shards. Afterward, Indy meets Gina, who finds a fragment. United, we realize we are in the epicenter of combat in Shanghai. Advancing under fire, the heroes find a plane stuck on the roof of one of the buildings. Reaching it, they manage to start the engine. After taking off, we encounter enemy planes that open fire. After fending off the attack, their plane fails, and Indy is forced to hijack an enemy aircraft, in which they escape from Shanghai. Considering the next destination, Indy decides to head to Sukhothai, assuming that another fragment is located there. Upon arriving in the city, Gina checks us into a hotel while Indiana calls his assistant Marcus, who tells him about a local legend that might help in the search. Marcus also reports Indy's dismissal from the college due to his sudden disappearance. During the conversation, the giant Lucas, whom we already saw in the Vatican, approaches Indy. He warns Indy against further searching and vanishes. Afterward, Indy and Gina go to their rooms. A romantic moment arises between them on the balcony, which is interrupted by an explosion. Forced to descend, we see that the hotel is being shelled by the military. We help the rebels fight off enemy forces, but due to their advance, we are forced to leave the hotel together with the rebel leader, Pailin. Arriving at the home of her uncle Sunan, we hear Voss threatening him and warning against ill-considered actions. Meeting with Sunan, Indy undergoes a test of courage, which turns out to be a joke. Afterward, Sunan tells the legend of Sukhothai. Having listened to him, Indiana realizes that the fragment is located right here. Showing our fragment, we secure Sunan's support. In the morning, Indy and Gina set off to find the temple Sunan mentioned. Reaching the site, Indy dives underwater and opens a hidden gate. Once inside, we see a massive snake. Continuing the search, Indy reaches the temple and fights off the giant snake. After the snake flees, Indiana reunites with Gina. Together, they solve a puzzle and receive a clue regarding the location of the fragment. Unexpectedly, Lucas enters the room and once again offers to resolve everything peacefully, but Indy attacks him. During their duel, the massive snake attacks them, and by teaming up, they kill it. Afterward, Gina explains to Lucas that the real enemy is Voss, but he does not listen. At that moment, Indy attacks Lucas and knocks him unconscious. Leaving the temple, Indy speaks with Sunan, from whom he receives a clue about the location of the fragment. Reaching the required spot, Gina finds the entrance where the fragment is hidden. Once inside, we realize that to proceed further, we need to complete a game, similar to the one in the temple. For this, we need more people, and we turn to Sunan and his men for help. Directing them, Indiana solves the puzzle and opens the passage to the fragment. Reaching it, Indy decodes the inscriptions in Adamic, but the last word has been erased over time, so Indy decides to take the statue, even though he understands it will cause the cave to collapse. Breaking the statue and retrieving the fragment from it, Indy rushes to the exit. Having made it out, Indy realizes that Lucas has caught up with them and is forced to give him 2 fragments. Afterward, Voss appears, mocking Gina and her meeting with her sister. To take the fragments, Voss opens fire. Under the shelling, Lucas decides to help us, and together we escape with 2 fragments. Changing positions, Voss catches up with us, but the rebels come to our aid and hold back the enemies. Escaping on a boat, we learn that Lucas helped us because we are the lesser evil compared to Voss. Fleeing from the Nazis, Gina falls from a waterfall and is captured by Voss. Meeting up, Indiana and Lucas set out to rescue Gina. Following Voss, we arrive in the Middle East, in Iraq, at the ziggurat of Ur. Upon arrival, we see Voss locking Gina away. Afterward, Lucas calls for reinforcements, and he, along with other giants, begins an attack on the soldiers. During the giants' diversion, Indy rescues Gina and attempts to leave the base. However, Gina convinces Indiana to sneak inside and uncover the secret of the Great Circle. Once inside, we see unconscious giants and also find Noah's Ark. Sneaking into the German tents, Indy finds Lucas unconscious. At that moment, Voss appears and tries to recruit Indiana, showing his findings and explaining his plan. When Indy refuses, Voss plays the final recording of Laura, in which she curses him. Unexpectedly, Gina appears and attempts to kill Voss for the murder of her sister, but she fails, and the soldiers take us prisoner. Having obtained the fragments found by Indiana, Voss transports the Ark to Lake Hamar. Regaining consciousness, we see Voss receiving the final fragment of the Great Circle, which was inside the Ark. With all fragments in his possession, Voss begins the ritual to summon the Great Circle. Because of this, Lucas begins to sing in Adamic. When all fragments are in place, a heavy rain suddenly starts and intensifies. At that moment, lightning strikes the ship and Gina, seizing the opportunity, frees us. Once free, a fight breaks out between us and the Germans. As a result of the duel, Voss captures Indiana with his own whip. Voss thinks he has won, but we are hit by a wave. After recovering, Indy and Voss continue the fight, suspended in the air while holding onto the whip. After defeating the German officer, Gina rescues Indiana. Meanwhile, Lucas takes control of the Ark, causing the Great Circle to activate. Unable to accept the loss of the Great Circle, Voss stands before Lucas and dies due to the power of the Great Circle. Having disposed of Voss, Lucas orders us to leave the ship. After leaving the ship, we see the Ark, along with Lucas, move through a portal. Upon reaching the shore, Indiana and Gina mourn Lucas, and Indiana finds his hat. Saying goodbye at the airport, Indiana gives Gina Laura's notebook. After an awkward conversation, Gina kisses Indiana and boards a plane flying into the sunset. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video on the Game Recap channel.